Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Conversations with a Vet. My name is Carolee. I will be your hostess this evening. We've got a wonderful guest returning with us this evening in the wings. But before we get there, I had a couple of little housekeeping things I wanted to talk about. And the first is going to be we've got a couple things going on here in Tennessee coming up. The first is going to be a golf tournament. It's the Corporal Diaz Memorial Charity Golf Tournament. It is the second annual golf tournament. It will be September 11th. It is on a Thursday at the Champions Run Golf Course. If you are interested, you can go ahead and click on the link there or the QR code. You can sign up. You need to do so as quick as possible because it's going to be here before we know it. We want to make sure that everybody who wants to sign up can join. It's $150 a player, $500 for four players, which is a team. All proceeds of this are going to go to support Minutes Wisely. They're the ones who put this on. A great guy who it runs that, Richard Fleek. So make sure you can get in and enjoy the fun. It is a lot of fun. We did that last year, really enjoyed it. So the second thing that I want to talk about is, let's see if I can get that one to come up. Bear with me. Is going to be, okay. It's going to be in Williamson County. So this is a benefit concert featuring Eric Genius. So he does performances all over the country, and it's in the style of Carnegie Hall. So he's a composer, an inspirational speaker, and he is going to be accompanied by a world-class violinist as well as a cellist and a vocalist. It's going to be Saturday, September 13th. That is in Williamson County at the Enrichment Center in Franklin. The concert's from 6 to 8 p.m. It is free. They are always looking for donations. This is in honor of Captain Bryce Bishop of the United States Air Force. He is survived by his wife, Jessie, and his 3 children. So any and all donations will go to benefit his family directly. It is sponsored by the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 1140 in Franklin, and that's Murray County. So Franklin and Murray counties. So please go check them out. Jim Caviezel, he actually had a little comment, and he had said, "What a pleasure to listen to not only a world-class pianist and composer, but an artist whose music translates beyond its genre to lift the audience and to believe and hope in the power of the human spirit." So be sure to go check those out. You can contact Morley Levine, and he is at 909-229-9021 if you have any questions. Also, I wanted to make sure that I give a shout out to Aegis Gun Care. So I had been to Goals a couple of weeks back, and that's Gun Owners of America Leadership Symposium, something along those lines. And they provide gun cleaning and gun care. And they donated for my next milestone, which is going to be 1,000 subscribers, a fully packed gun cleaning kit. It has everything in there that you're going to need, and some patented formulas and such. So a shout out to them. Thank you very much. Appreciate the donations. Also, speaking of donations, and we're going to lead right in at this moment to my current and former guest, Frank Demith. But before we do, he has donated a couple of autographed books, his newest book, Defending the Eagle. So be sure to check that one out as well. So without further ado, please help me welcome Frank Demith to the stage. Hello, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm finer than frog air split 3 ways, Coralie.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you've been just moving and grooving since the last time we talked. It sounds like, and keeping yourself busy and hopefully out of trouble.
Well,
Okay, moving and grooving. We'll go with that. So there's several people that have not, of course, they weren't on or may not have heard your story to begin with. So let's take a step back and kind of go back to who you were as a child.
well, I was a poor kid on the south side of Chicago. My dad worked in a steel mill, and my mom worked in a factory as an admin person. They made springs, and I mean, I never wanted for anything. I mean, I didn't even know I was poor, but it turns out that we were, because after I went to high school, I had plans of becoming a professional musician. I was a pretty good saxophone player,
Oh,
and,
nice.
and I was in a band, and we did some gigs around the town, and uh, but it never panned out. And you can't do a budget on gig work with a three-piece band. So I figured I'd join the army, and I joined and was accepted into the band program. And you have to take a big audition. And my recruiter thought I'd never, he's never gonna to pass that audition. And of course I passed. I was really good. And so I made it into the band. And while I was in basic training, I took a test. Didn't know what it was. They took like 15 people and told us we had to take a test. So you follow orders. You get down there, you take the test, you come back. Then a week later, they called 9 of us back out, and they said, "Hey, you got to go fill out some paperwork." And while we were marching down there, one of the privates was, bold enough to ask, "Well, what are we filling out paperwork for?" And he said, "Well, you idiots are going to apply for an opportunity to go to a prep school for the military academy." And none of us even knew what that was. So there was 4 of them that just dropped out and went back to back to back
They're
to.
like, I'm out. See you later.
It's like, I don't want to do that. I just came in here for college money. So I figured I'd give it a shot, and I filled out the paperwork and forgot all about it. I went off to my AIT, and while I was in my 5th or 6th week of AIT, my section sergeant, because we didn't at that time in band school, you didn't have drill sergeants for AIT. They were just band people, and so we didn't do any PT stuff. I mean, we didn't do anything. The biggest thing we came to tactically was we went to Little Creek Amphibious Base, and the Marines would do practice landings at a portion of Little Creek. So we go up there and sit on a sand dune and cheer for them.
Oh, yes.
They
Get
always
the blood pumping.
chase us out. But one day, my section leader came to me and says, "The commander wants to talk to you." I
Oh.
said, "What did I do?" And he said, "I don't know." I said, I don't know any more than you do." So we walked down there, and, I walked in and I saluted him, Specialist Demith reporting his order. And he's trying to hold back a laugh. And he's like, "Do you have any idea why you're here?" I said, "No, sir." I said, "I can't remember doing anything bad. I mean, that's the only reason why I would be here." And he said, "No, do you remember filling some paperwork out when you were in basic training?" And so I'm thinking to myself, well, we filled out all kinds of paperwork. And he said, you received an invitation to go to prep school. And I'm like, "Okay." I said, so I leave after I get my MOS? And he goes, "Well, that's the tricky part." He says, "You have to be there in 4 weeks." And
Wow.
the course was like 23 weeks long.
Oh.
And I'm like, "Sir, I'm never gonna." And he says, "You'll get there." And they I never had a spare moment for the rest of the time I was there. I
Oh.
mean, I was in class and doing stuff from 6 in the morning till 8 at night, every day, weekends, everything. And I finally finished, and I had my own little graduation, and then they kicked me out and said, "You got to go to Fort Monmouth." And I said, "Well, that's just right around the corner, so that won't be bad." So I went there, and I spent 10 months there, or yeah, 10 months. And what they didn't tell anybody, almost everybody who makes it to the prep school, they find a seat for them at the academy. And the politicians only have so many slots. So the guy that gave me my slot at the military academy, I wouldn't have known him from Adam. I don't know who he was. I couldn't tell you what his name is, but he got me a slot, and so I made it. And then somehow, by God's grace, I graduated 4 years later, and I was about the middle of the class, and it's nothing spectacular. And I mean, I had people in my class like General Miller, who ran the closeout in Afghanistan up until the end. He's a 4-star and a great guy and special ops guy, and everybody in special ops knows him. Well, he was one of my classmates, and then
Wow.
there was 3 or 4 other 3 and 4 stars, and there's probably more, but you know I didn't. Those weren't the people that I really hung out with at school, and they probably wouldn't even know me if they ran into me on the street. But except I wear the hat all the time. I'm pretty proud of the group of people that I was a part of. And then I went off to do my military time. I spent 12 years on active duty. Um, I left the active duty after being in the recruiting command as a recruiting company commander. And when I left, I applied for the Active Guard and Reserve program. And so I was out for 6 months, and I was asked to go back on active duty in the Active Guard and Reserve. And I did another 12 years, no, 14 years with that. And I retired in 2007 with 26 years in service. And I went
Wow.
out and did some civilian jobs. And then in 2010, uh, I was requested to go back on active duty because,
Really?
well, yeah, I was in a office that had oversight of all the Army's language and culture programs. And so my boss, who was a GS-15, he moved on to another organization. And so I was the only one. It was a 2-person shop. And so it's the same thing as back in my AIT. My supervisor comes to me and he says, the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs wants to talk to you. I'm like, what? So he says, I have no idea what it's about. And he says, we need to be down there. We got 5 minutes. So we walked down
Oh,
there, and Mr. Lamont was the ASA MNRA at the time, a really good guy. And but he could also be very, very to the point. And when we walked in, there was nobody else in the room but him. So it was just the 3 of us. And I'm like, uh-oh, this might not be good. So he looks at me and goes, I understand you're doing a really good job down there in the language and culture stuff. I said, well, sir, I've had some experience in it, and it's what I know. And he says, well, we want to keep you on. And I'm thinking, oh man, I'm gonna get this GS job. I'm gonna be a GS-15. How cool is that? And he looks at me, and the next words out of his mouth were, but we don't have any room as a civilian for you. And I'm like, oh, okay, well. And he says, the only way I can keep you is to bring you back on active duty. And I said, well, sir, what if what if I don't want to come back? He says, well, we can bring you back. He says, you can volunteer or, or we're going to bring you back. I said,
Wow.
I guess it's better if I volunteer. He goes, yep, it is. So I volunteered, and 1 year turned to 2 years, turned to 2.5 years. And I finally finished there after 2.5 years and went back to being a contractor. But I did a bunch of different contracting jobs. And then I decided that I had enough. My fund meter was pegged out, and there was nothing else there for me that I wanted to do. My last job, my last job. Before that, I was a vice president of a company, and then the company decided they didn't need my position anymore. So then one day I was, and the next day I wasn't. And I was looking for
Wow.
a job, and so I applied for this job with this company, and yeah, it was a job. And when I interviewed, there was three three young women who were in charge of the group, and they're like, we'd love to have you working with us, but this job is kind of below your background. And it was a job taking notes in meetings.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
And it was a job and it paid well. And so I said, well, I've taken notes in meetings. I had no idea what I was getting into. I mean, these young people were incredibly talented, and they take these notes on these meetings. It's like you were reading, straight from what happened, and I didn't have that skill. And so they turn all their stuff in, and they might have one or two corrections. I turned mine in, and it looked like someone bled all over the paper. And they're like, "Oh, don't worry, Frank. You'll get better." And I never got better. So they put me in another section at the end, and it was doing acquisition, and just not something I wanted to do. So
So you
I
really
pulled,
can't go down, right? You gotta work at your level.
yeah, so I pulled the plug on everything in 21 or 22, and I retired completely, and that's where I started writing.
Ah,
And there was a program that I was in charge of. I was a program manager, according to the general officer I worked for. I was the only military person in this program. The rest of them were civilians that worked in the Pentagon. And we recruited individuals who had specific language skills who were also green card holders. And when we recruited them, we were very honest with them. We told them, as soon as you finish your training, you're deploying. There's there's no question. It's not like some people who joined at that time. It started in 2004, and it ran all the way up through, I think, 2019, and then the proponent got rid of it. But during that time, I mean, we grew it into a regular military occupational specialty for the Army, and we had two active duty units and one unit in the National Guard and one in the Army Reserve. And the original requirement was just to recruit people into the inactive ready reserve and then mobilize them and send them off to a unit. And I remember the day like it was yesterday when the folder ended up on my desk when I was working in the Pentagon. And it had a note on it that said, if you have any questions, come see me. And it was from the general officer that was in charge of our section. And so I got with my supervisor. I said, hey, I really need to talk to the boss about this because I have no idea what's going on. And so I went in and we had like a 15 or 20-minute talk, and he outlined everything. And I said, sir, he said, do you have any questions? And I said, sir, I only have one question. And he says, well, what is it? And I said, how far do you want me to try to take this? And he says, well, you take it as far as you can push it. And so I did. And there was so much pushback in the Pentagon about making this an MOS and an active duty. And I made up shirts for everybody in the group. and it said, I don't give a picture of a rat and a donkey. And I gave it to him because there were so many things that we had to overcome. I mean, almost everything. It was a brand new MOS, and not many people had put one together at that time, a new one. And so I said, I don't care what the problem is, but don't just bring me a problem. If there's something wrong, give me an idea of how we can fix it. And if we can't fix it, then we'll all sit together and we'll figure out how we're going to fix it. And we went through so much stuff. I mean, it was just, and for the first year the program existed, we were still doing the mobilization stuff on the inactive ready reserve. And so these high-ranking people in the Pentagon, the civilians, and me, we would sit around a conference table and go person by person and assign them to a unit. And then we'd take all those pieces of paper and send them to the people who cut the orders and tell them this is where they're going. And then we would contact the units and tell them, you've got a person coming to work for you who's a trained interpreter translator. It's not a contractor. It's a soldier. And when we train them first to be a soldier. And then on top of that, they use their language skills. And a lot of people don't understand. Just because you know the language doesn't make you an interpreter. They're
right.
Different skills, completely different. Yeah. And I didn't know that. I mean, I fell in with everybody else, It's a linguist is a linguist. But it's not. And there's so many little ins and outs. So after working on that and watching it grow and everything, I waited for someone to write a story about them, because we recruited over 1,500 people into the program.
Wow.
Yeah. During its time that it existed, we recruited over 1,500 folks, and nobody wrote anything. And it's like, well, I'll do it. So I said, nobody else is going to do it. I'll do it. Who knows more about it than me?
And that would be your first book?
Yes, of vital interest.
And Frank, tell them where they can get this book if they would like to read it, where they can go.
It's available on online. It's not in bookstores. It's available online from Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Target, and even Books A Million. You can order it online. And nice. It's basically any place that sells books. If you put in a title, you can find it.
Now, on the front of this cover, even with my glasses, I'm afraid I can't read this, but the little seal at the top, something about a impact book, something winner.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. I mean, first of all, nobody would have ever thought that I would write a book. But then on top of that, it won.
If I can get that close enough so we can see.
So we were named the best military book in 2023 by the International Impact Book Awards. And my wife and I had to go to Phoenix for a black tie event and pick up our award. And I love the award. I mean, it's like, my God, I hadn't never won a lot of awards, as a little kid or any time. But it looks like an upside down question mark on a platform.
That's funny.
I kept on turning it the other way around, and the people who ran the event are like, stop that.
So on the sleeve, on the inside, now it says that you are a graduate of the Deliberate Discomfort Challenge.
I am.
And what is that?
Well, What I didn't say before was when I retired from civilian work, for about the first month or two, I had, the normal honeydew list, and I was knocking stuff out left and right. And then one day I decided, I'm pretty much done with this list. I'll just take one day, and I'm going to get on the computer and, browse around and turn the idiot box on. That's what us old people call the TV. And it's just one day. And then it turned into 2 days, a week, 2 weeks, a month. And by the time I was in toward the end of the second month, I was in a very bad place, mentally and physically. I mean, I hadn't done anything, and I was really having some issues, thoughts going through my head that should never have been there. And so I was on the computer, and I saw a post from a classmate of mine. And I mean, I've known this guy for over 40 years. And all it said was deliberate discomfort challenge. And there was a link. I said, well, I'll open it up. I mean, it's from him. So I opened it up, and it asked you to sign up. I said, okay, I'll sign up. So I signed up, and I noticed that it was with this, whatever it was starting in 2 days. So I said, okay, well, I got 2 days. And then the next day, I got an email saying, thanks for signing up and all this. So then I figured maybe I should check and see what I signed up for.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Know what we're supposed to be doing.
When I signed up, is anything was good at that point. I mean, anything to break me out of where I was. It was a bad place. And so I went back and I opened up the link, and it was 60 days long. And there was 6 different focus groups for each day. And they were all the same every day for 60 days. The same groups, but it was different tasks. And at the end of each one of those days, you had to send an email in to the person in charge of the challenge, who was a retired special operations guy, special forces, be exact. And you had to tell him a number. And if the number was anything less than 6, you started all the way over again with the challenge. And there was one guy in our group, he had gone 50 plus days, and he missed one thing. And he was, honest, and he said 5, and he said, okay, back to day 1. And so it was kind of tough for me. I mean, there was a bunch of much younger people, but I lost over 30 pounds. And I mean, you did everything from physical stuff, workouts in the gym, all kinds of running. Every day you were running, either doing sprints, or you're doing different types of runs, or you were doing rucksack walks and timed runs. You had to write in a journal every day on something that you were grateful for. You had to call someone who you hadn't talked to in a long time, and they wanted you to call someone who you had not a problem, but maybe you didn't interact well, and you had to call them and sort things out. And then you had to read a book every week, cover to cover.
Oh.
And they had a list of stuff, and it was all mainly self-help stuff, but you could read anything you want, but you had to finish it in a week. And then the best part was meditation. I didn't know if it comes across, but I am not a meditation guy. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and we used to make fun of people who did meditation.
And now you're one of them.
Oh, yeah. And I love it.
Do you still meditate?
I absolutely love it. I got to the point where I could meditate for 45 minutes or longer.
Oh, goodness.
And
Are
it's
you
just
sure you weren't just sleeping?
well, no, but it's such a great experience. I mean, and it's hard to get into it because I mean, first of all, you have to be able to relax and you have to be able to shut things out. But boy, once you get to that point and you're able to shut things out, it's amazing how great it is for your psyche. I mean, it's just awesome, and it gave me the focus that I needed to sit down and write the first book, and I still have it.
Wow.
I still have that focus, and it's because I still exercise and and meditate. But I wrote the first book in 90 days.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I was writing
How
a
many
thousand.
edits?
I was writing 1,000 to 1,500 words a day, and because I had to focus, I mean, all that work. I the first 2 weeks, I sat down and I drew out an outline, and the outline each chapter had 3 or 4 bullet points that I wanted to get across in that chapter. And then I did the short character sketches for the primary characters, and one of the hard parts was coming up with names because it's hard. It's easy, you would think, but coming up with a name that is nothing like anybody I know. Um, and then the Arabic names, I had to go to the internet and I Googled the most common names, and I used a lot of those. But once I got that done, and it sounds funny, but this is the way I write. I look at the outline and then I just think about that chapter, and then I swear to God on a stack of Bibles, when I'm thinking about it, I see the action in my mind.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just a matter of writing down what I'm seeing. And it was so easy. I
I
love
think that's I see I have started 3 different books,
it. Yep.
and one of them's over 30,000 words, probably closer to 50.
Wow.
But, I after a while, I get bored. And it's like, "Okay, let's find something else," and I might go back to it like 5 years later, right?
Well, that's why I like writing the genre I write. I write historical fiction.
Mhm.
And so the stuff in my books are based on historical fact.
Right.
Um, did one person do all the stuff that the hero in the book did? No.
Right.
And none of the characters in my book are one person.
Right.
They're a conglomerate of several people that I've come across and known. But there were people in our program who worked with the special forces and did things that nobody ever talked about, and I don't even know if I can write the factual book that would talk about that stuff. But
Yeah, you'd probably have to get DOD approval and all that
yeah,
good stuff. Oh,
well, one day when we were in the Pentagon, um, the Special Operations Command contacted us and they said, "Hey, we'd like you to stress something in your training." It's like, okay, of course. He said, "Can you make sure everybody understands that they can't be the first one through the door when we go into a building?" Well, first of all, who would want to be the first through the door?
Right.
And especially not someone who's trained as special operations guy. And then I found out that when they did the train ups, everybody did the training. And if you were an armed interpreter, you did training. And so I, I don't know,
Interesting.
but they were considered an asset, and they didn't want them going through first because if something happened to them, they didn't have an interpreter.
Right. So also on this sleeve, it says you were a member of the Endless Six.
Yeah, that's the post deliberate discomfort group. And so
Okay.
I extended into that for another year. And then after, it was that year was up, I just didn't have the time to do it anymore because I was in the middle of marketing the first book and working on the second book, and I just didn't have the ability to stay in it all the time.
So let's talk a little bit about the second book. So you finished that first book, you
Yep.
took time off, you spent time with family, did what you wanted to do. Why did you decide I really need to write a second book?
Well, I wrote the beginning of the first book. That's the easiest answer. But it's a series. I'm planning on doing 7 or 8 books based on this, and what my plan is. After I wrote the first book, people were asking, my friends and a lot of other people are asking me, well, where are you at in the book? And I said, I'm not in the book. I'm writing a book. And they said, well, you got to write yourself in. And so I couldn't do it in the second book because the second book is the culmination of the deployment that the hero is on with his unit. So that finishes up in the second book. But the third book that I'm working on right now is going to take place in DC.
Oh, wow.
There's going to be a ceremony in the Pentagon, and it's not going to end up well. I don't want to give the whole story away.
No, you don't want to do that, but
that's going to be that's the third book. And then the fourth book, this is my first book that was published, was actually the third book that I had written. And the first book I had written was about my time in Kosovo. I was there before the Air Force came in. I was with the diplomatic observer team from the State Department, and one of the people that I know was the group that came across the first massacre site, the first documented one. I mean, there was a lot of them before that, but this was the first mass grave that they had found. And of course, that book could never see the light of day.
Yeah, you could do what Kirk Spradley did. So we've got, let's go this way. We've got War Junkie right here. So he took his book, he submitted it up to the DoD, and they said they redacted a whole bunch of stuff. And he decided to publish it all with the redactions in it. So there's a bunch of black mark all the way through the book.
well, what I'm going to do is, as part of book 3, I get to meet the hero of the series.
Nice.
And as part of our conversation, he's going to talk to me about how I got involved with the program, because everybody knew who I was by name because I was the program manager. So book 4 is going to be me explaining to him what happened in Kosovo.
Okay.
And not using reports or anything, and it's gonna have a big thing written across the front. This is purely fiction, and
yeah.
But my friends in Kosovo will pick it up and say, "Ooh, look, he wrote about us."
Nice.
That's going to be book 4.
Nice. So tell me a little bit about your cover. How did you come up with your cover?
Well, I would challenge anybody to try to figure out what the title means before reading the book. And once they read the book, they're going to come back to the cover and say, "Oh, so that's what that means." Because it's not as evident as a cover would make it seem.
So it's not, the bald eagle with the flag. It's more to that.
Yes, there's a different
Don't give it away.
And once they read it, they'll come to that part and they'll say, oh, this one of those, oh, that's what that means.
That's awesome. So, for anybody interested in purchasing this book, Defending the Eagle, where is this one?
Well, you can find a link on my webpage, which is frankdemithauthor.com.
I'm going to put that in the chats here real quick for everybody.
So if you go to that page, that has both the first and second book on it. And the link is active, and it'll take you to either Barnes and Noble or Amazon. You can buy it at either one. And I'll tell you right up front, I'm not trying to milk a dime out of anybody. And if you want the hardcover book, there's places other than Amazon that have the hardcover book at a substantially less price. And that's all I'm going to say.
There you go. Fair enough. That's fair. I'm really excited about this one too, because, well, for one, I look at a cover, and I shouldn't, right? You shouldn't judge a book by its cover. I'm one of those people. I fully admit it. It's wrong. It's terrible to do. But I look at a cover to see, the thought that went into that cover. And is it eye-catching for me? So when I look at this, it's amazing to me, right? It's got the color, it's got the pop, it's got the patriotism, the soldiers, it's got everything there. And to me, I'm looking at this and I'm like, boy, this is really, really an interesting cover, which then it's kind of like smelling your food before you eat it, right? It's kind of like that, where you tend to judge it before you have that opportunity to get into it.
Well, this book took a lot longer to publish than what I would have wanted. I had a publishing contract, and the person who signed me on took 10 months with my book, with my manuscript, and didn't even turn a edited version back into me to look at.
Oh.
And then told me, and this contract was for 3 books. And then they told me, we're sorry, we can't publish your book.
Did they give a reason?
I turned to another publisher, and they published it very quickly.
Nice. I did look to see, because I noticed there were different publishers on the spine of the book at the bottom. And so I was like, wow, okay.
Book 2 was published by Spines, Spines.
Yes.
And they're known for being a self-publishing tool, but they also do like a hybrid where they have real editors and other things that you can use. And this book also has a audio version.
That was the question Jason had, was whether or not there is a book on Audible.
The Defending the Eagle is, but it wasn't part of the contract for a vital interest.
Okay.
So there's several outlets for the audio book as well, but that's also on the author page, the author website.
So you can go to
the audio book in there.
Okay, and that's www.frankdemithauthor.com, correct?
Yeah, but I with the first book, I couldn't believe how many requests I had for an audio version. And I honestly, I didn't even think about it. And the contract that I signed for publishing that didn't include an audio version. There was an opportunity to get one, but they were going to charge me like thousands to have somebody read the book into a microphone.
So if ever you need somebody, I have somebody for you for that.
Okay.
And yeah, and he's a vet.
Well, I'm not entirely sure that Book 3 will be published by the same group. There's a really bad error that's occurring right now with defending the eagle. If you didn't have the link that I have on my author page, you wouldn't be able to find it.
Oh.
Because most people, what they do, and I explained this to them, I said, what people do is they put the title in the search block and then they hit enter. But what you have to do, the way they set it up, you have to put the title and my name in the search block, and then you have to go to the drop down to the left and scroll down to books and then click that, and then it'll come up.
Oh.
But if you just put the title in, you won't find it. And that's different from my first book. If you did a vital interest and you just type that in a search block, it would come up. So I'm trying. I called Amazon and I spent about an hour on the phone with them. And they said, well, I explained the problem and we walked through it. And they said, okay, what's your name? I gave them I told them I was the author. They said, well, we're sorry, we can't help you. You're not on the account. And I'm like, I'm the author. And so somebody from the publisher has to go through the same thing I went through. And so far, that hasn't happened. Yeah. And when my book first came out, the second one, I figured I was about 20 books away from being in the top 100, so a bestseller.
And you probably to hit that had they been able to find
and then
you.
All of a sudden, the search went blank, and it's been that way ever since. And I got, in fact, the people in Amazon, when I talked to them, they said, we have no record of any sales for this book. And I'm like, I get royalty checks that show me where the sales occur, and Amazon's got the largest number. I said, how can that be?
And they have no answer.
No. And what has to happen is the publisher has to get with Amazon and provide the information, the data that they have, so that Amazon can cross-check. But then I'm smarter than I look. I'm sorry.
You look pretty smart to me, Frank.
What happened was, when you're an author and you launch a book on Amazon, it gets picked up. Until you have sales, there's no rankings. So there's no rankings because there's nothing to rank. So my book in all of its different variations has rankings on Amazon. And so I asked the lady, I said, can you look at my book? She goes, yeah. I bring it up. I said, okay, scroll down to where the rankings are. She goes, oh. And I said, hey, do you understand my issue now? I said, I'm ranked in 3 different categories. There has to have been something sold, or there would be no ranking.
Exactly.
And so it's a mess that they have to sort through. And in the meantime, that's why I put the links directly on my author page, and hopefully people will use that. And I have 2 reviews so far, and one of them is amazing. I didn't write it, but boy, she sure hit the book right on the head. It's just, I'll have that up on my author page here in the next day or 2.
Nice.
But
I am excited to get into it, so I can put my review in there too.
Yeah. Well, as you know, reviews are worth their weight in gold. I mean, it doesn't even matter what number comes up. If you don't have a certain number of reviews, you don't get positioned in the list of like books.
Yeah.
So you can sit off to the side and nobody will ever know you exist.
Exactly right.
And it's hard. I mean, it's hard. I'm not the type of person who goes to the people I know have bought a book and say, "Hey, you need to write a review. Have you written a review yet? Come on, write the review." And that's not me. And I guess I sold cars on the weekend for like 3 years, and I sold as many cars working the weekend as some of the other salesmen said working full time the whole month. It's
Oh,
like, how
wow.
do you do that? I said, people tell me what they want and I show it to them. And then if they want to buy it, they buy it. I said, I'm not trying to give them something they don't want. It's,
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
I'm the same way with the books, but I really need to be more proactive with reviews.
Yeah. Yeah. And for everybody watching, if you're getting either one of the books, of Vital Interest or Defending the Eagle, or anything after that, please go on out to where would we review this?
Amazon, wherever they bought it from, you can do a review
Okay.
on that page, wherever the book is at.
Okay. So excellent. So, if you get it at Amazon, if you go to um
It's also available on Goodreads.
that's the one I was just thinking of, Goodreads, if that
Book.
was out there. Yeah. So we're always looking for a good book for our book club. So
Well, I'm got all the time in the world. If someone wants to have a book club meeting and bring me in to explain some inside facts, I'd be happy to do it.
excellent. I will have to
Oh,
remember that.
Guess what, Corley?
In what?
And this is big news to me, and a lot of your listeners are probably like, yeah, what are you so excited about? My books are actually on a library shelf now.
Look at you.
Yeah,
That's wonderful.
it's a library nobody will find, but I took a picture and I posted it on my Instagram page, and I was tickled pink. I said
Well, you
one of the
should
reasons
be.
why I've done this is because I'm old, and I was in an austere group of people who are very successful, and
Mhm.
I started looking. I went to a reunion, and I'm like, man, who's gonna remember me? I got a brick in the pavement at West Point that says my name and my nickname while I was at the academy. Even back then, people call me Gramps.
Oh,
I was
wow.
older than a lot of them because I was in the army first before going there. And the other reason why is I'm slower than pond water. I I am not fast
Uh,
walker. I'm not a fast runner. And
but you do it, which is amazing.
yeah,
And for that you have my adoration, because I'm just not that kind of a person
but
either. So
writing books, if you write a book, the chances are at some point it might go out of printing or something might happen. But when you have a book and you find a small library and they put it on their shelf, I mean, it just makes it all worthwhile to me because I think about it, 40 or 50 years ago when I'm worm food, laying under the ground, somebody might go in this library and be looking through and say, "Oh, I'm going to read this," and
yeah.
read it and say, "Wow, that's a pretty good book." Or even
You are
say,
now
"Oh, it's a
you're
terrible book." They read it.
you're now officially part of the Dewey Decimal System.
Absolutely. I love it. I don't know what else can be
Uh,
better.
I think that's great. So we've got a couple questions for you before we wrap up. So Jason, well, first off, Jason asked if you speak any other languages other than English.
I'm very bad at Polish, which I'm ashamed of because that's my heritage.
Okay.
I took French in high school. I still speak that at some level. I majored in Russian area studies at the academy, more so to be ready for the impending fight that never happened.
Right.
Uh,
But be thankful. We're all thankful it
yeah,
never happened. So
my first wife was Mexican American, so I understand Spanish and don't speak it very much anymore, but and that's probably about it. I picked up a little Arabic, but it's not it's not even worthy of discussion.
yeah. He also said congratulations on the new book, sir. Thank you for coming back on to talk about it. And we are very happy, always happy to have
Pleasure.
you with us. And then Jim said he is um, in listen mode and said, thank you for your service, Frank. So he's probably traveling, would be my guess. So if anybody else has any questions for Frank, go ahead and put those in the comments for me now.
Well,
I
I love it
oh,
when I hear somebody thank me for my service, but honestly, for me, there was two options: work in the steel mill next to my dad, or join the army.
yeah. And it's amazing how those forks in the road get us to where we're at today, right?
And I was only intending to do 4 years and get enough money and use the GI Bill to go to college and work on my musical talents more.
Yeah. Ron says it would have to be a good feeling knowing a part of you will be immortalized. My hat's off to you, sir.
Thank you, Ron.
I think it's amazing what you've accomplished. And now you're also training for a marathon, is that correct?
No, the Army 10 miler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, for me, that's a marathon.
I will never even dream about running a marathon.
Yeah, 10 miles, anything over like, 3/4 of a mile for me is a marathon. So
Well, I'll be sore for a week. I mean, my knees will be aching me, but
yeah.
you know when you do that and your knees ache and your body aches, you're alive.
Yep, that's right. That's exactly right. Well, I want to thank you again for coming on and catching everybody up about where you're at today and what you've got going on. And I hope that we'll have the opportunity to have you back and keep us informed on everything.
Can I add
So
one more thing?
please do.
On my webpage, at the bottom of the webpage, if you scroll down, there's an email where people can contact me.
Excellent.
And if you would like to have a signed book, uh, write me a message in the email, and I'll get back to you, and we'll work it out.
Excellent. And in the meantime, when we hit our next milestone, I have 2 signed copies right here waiting for 2 very lucky winners. But in the meantime, go check it out. You can get it everywhere. So appreciate you very much. And again, everybody out there, thank you so much for joining. Ron says, thank you for your service and contribution through your book. So we will have a show, I believe. Let me check my calendar here. So we're scheduled for a show on the 31st. So everybody think good thoughts, put it out there in the ethers, and we will see you next Sunday, 6 p.m. Central Time. Frank, if you want to hang tight, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Everybody, thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next week.